How to get things done. Implementation intentions. Have you experienced this one? One late night, an idea struck your mind, and it came out of nowhere. In an instant, you wanted to change your life. You vowed to sleep more early, eat healthy, and you promised that you won't procrastinate anymore. But because it was late and you needed to sleep, you promised yourself that you would begin strolling this new path the next day. However, when you awoke the next morning, you were not the new person you felt you were the night before. You're still the old you, with no desire to make the changes you had intended. And in the days and weeks that followed, you still continually sleep late and eat badly. You've reverted again to your old habits and failed to follow through on your promises. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. People set intentions and fail at them all the time. But how can we solve this dilemma? The answer is by applying what psychologists call implementation intentions. Let me show you how it's done. An intriguing study article was published in the British Journal of Health Psychology in 2002. In this study, 248 individuals were randomly assigned to one of three groups. The control group was the first. They were just instructed to keep track of how frequently they exercised for the next 2 weeks. The second group was similarly instructed to log their exercise. But they were also given a motivational message as well as leaflets on heart health and the benefits of exercise. That was the motivated group. The third group received the same encouraging message as the second, but they were also instructed to do something different. And that was to plan out when, where, and how they would exercise. Here's how it turned out. 38% of individuals in the first group exercised at least once per week, while 35% of those in the second group exercised. This indicates that the motivation offered to the second group had no influence on their actions. However, in the third group, which was asked to be specific about when, where, and how they planned to exercise, 91% of the individuals worked out during the 2-week period. The third group did something different. They utilized implementation intentions, also known as the if-then strategy. When we have a goal, we usually conceive it in this way. I want to accomplish X. For instance, I want to learn piano 3 times a week. Now, the implementation objective is really a little modification to this. It becomes, if circumstance Y occurs, then I will perform X. For instance, if it's 6 p.m. on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, I'll go home and practice the piano for an hour. The aim remains to practice 4 times each week, but observe how much more realistic it has become. That is the fundamental concept behind implementation intentions. It only takes a few minutes to write down, but it massively enhances your chances of accomplishing what you want to do. And the reason it's so successful is that you eliminate all the guesswork ahead of time. When we are unsure about how to do something or when to do it, we prefer to choose the simpler alternative, which is generally just not to do it. Assume you've just returned home from a long day at work, but you told yourself that you would practice. You now have 2 choices: go to your piano area or sleep in bed. Because you didn't say when you were going to play the piano, you persuade yourself you do it tomorrow. As a result, you choose the easy choice, which is to sleep. The piano practice is once again postponed, and this type of rationalization is used to postpone actions indefinitely. However, when you commit in advance to when, how, and where you will do it, you begin to lean toward the behavior you committed to. So, if it's 6 p.m. on a Monday, you be heading home to practice the piano. You are not left pondering whether or not to practice that day. You've already agreed to it. And if it's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, you're not contemplating if it's a good time to go. You've already decided to not play the piano on that particular day and time. Thus, you should utilize implementation intentions if you wish to accomplish something. However, including coping plans can improve your odds even more. Coping plans are precise strategies that you use anytime you face a difficulty. They serve as a backup plan. They also follow a very identical pattern and look like this. If difficulty Y happens, then I will do X to overcome it. This compels you to consider the various issues you may face in the future, and when they do happen, you're prepared. Let's go back to my example. It's 6 p.m. on a Monday, and your implementation intention states that practice is required. However, your supervisor has requested that you work extra until 7 p.m. today. Your implementation purpose has suddenly hit an obstacle, and you are unable to follow it through. But because you had anticipated that this would happen, you already had a backup plan in place. Here are the 2 coping strategies you devised for this specific situation. I'll practice the piano if I have to work until 7 p.m. However, if I have work beyond 7:30 p.m., I'll practice the next day. Again, you are not left pondering whether or not to practice since you've worked it out ahead of time. The motivation drive is not enough to make us move. Yes, motivation may help make things simpler. But if you continually wait for motivation to hit before doing something, you won't get nearly as much done. There will be days when you're exhausted, your back hurts, you're not in the mood, and so on. These kinds of days are common, and you shouldn't beat yourself up if you can't push through. But when you don't do something you promise yourself you'll do, you wind up feeling guilty. And this guilt impacts negatively on other aspects of your day, such as leisure time. Assume you should be studying for a test but aren't in the mood, so you go play RPG, a role-playing game, instead. What will most likely happen is that you will not enjoy the game as much as you would ordinarily. Instead, your guilt will begin to devour you for failing to perform what you should be doing. So to avoid beating yourself up mentally, simply do what you said you would do, just in a smaller amount. So, for example, your coping plan might be, if I'm too tired to study, then I'll only read through the notes. I understand that starting anything seems meaningless if you're not prepared to go all in. However, there are 2 compelling reasons why this is successful. First and foremost, we overcame the first barrier of starting. Actually, it is far more difficult to begin anything than it is to continue doing it. Second, even if you merely go over your notes, you've done more than you would have otherwise. Even doing a small bit of something is preferable than doing nothing. More importantly, you've effectively implemented your coping strategy. There is no remorse, even if you opt to play RPG afterward. It's kind of frustrating when you fail to do something that you vowed to do. However, I hope you now have a better understanding of how to make it simpler for yourself to achieve what you want to do. Don't wait for motivation before you act. Instead, act now and let the motivation follow. Don't be like most people who always choose the easy path. Be a part of the group that accomplishes its goals in a strategic manner. Want to stay motivated? Then subscribe to this channel so you can see other videos that will help you put more money in your pocket. Thanks for watching.